What's going on, guys? Grim here. I'm wanting to talk to you guys about how to win in Conquest matches. Now, this video is mainly going to be focused around if you are just a person wanting to join a Conquest and win it. Not really about how to lead one and the strategy. I'll touch a little bit on that, but not too much on it. So to start out with, you want to spec your character out the right way. Now, if you run a certain spec in Warfronts, it might not transition very well into Conquest. Take, for example, I run around with my Warlord build at the time of this video, and I kill lots and lots of people. I'm very dominant with my Warlord spec. The problem is, in Conquest, if I run around with that Warlord spec, I'm going to get killed all the time, and I'm not going to be killing anybody. Because it's a lot more players in more concentrated areas. So it just doesn't transition well. Say if I'm a warrior, usually in Conquest I'll run a Void Knight spec. Now there are other specs that do work well in Conquest, but I'm going to put a list of the specs in the description below that you want to be in order to be appealing to get invited to these groups. Because pre-made groups have the highest chance of winning, and you usually want to be on one of those to ensure that you'll win. I mean, it's not a guarantee, but it increases your odds. So you want to go with that. And whenever they're forming for these pre-made groups, they have specific specs in mind that they want to fill their raids up with. Take, for example, you might think that Reaver is good in Conquest. And in all actuality, it is. It's a pretty good build. The problem is that they do not want Reavers on their teams in pre-mates because they want Void Knights. They love that Void Knights can pull people in. They can, AoE pull people in. They can take a lot of damage. They can AoE silence. You're starting to see a trend here. It's a lot of AoE because there's so many players in such a small, concentrated areas that AoE specs really rule. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and put all the specs in the description below that you want to be in order to have the best chance to get onto a pre-made team. Okay. Now, I pretty much already explained that you're wanting to be on a pre-made team. So how do you find these pre-made teams once you've gotten your spec? Well, there's chat channels that you can join in Rift that are designed for people to form pre-mades for Conquests. And the channels change over time. Some of them have been around longer than others, but a lot of them have certain life expectancy, so to say. Like there was a channel that I would join whenever I first got into Rift that was the place to go to get into a pre-made team, and it's gone now. That channel is no longer active, and there's different ones in its place now. So I'm not really going to put the names of the channels in the video here. I'll put them into the description below because I'd like to edit it and change it to keep a little more up to date. Even though this video will gain a little bit of age, I still want the channels to be the current ones in the description below. So I'll even put down there how you join them. So you want to have the right spec and then join one of these chat channels, and then usually around 30 minutes before Conquest is about to start, they'll begin forming pre-mates. And if one of the leaders decides that he wants to run a match there, he will start talking in one of those channels and say, hey, I'm forming up for a pre-made, I need these classes. And it will usually be the classes that I'll have listed in the description below. because that's the ones that they're really looking for. And then you just send them a message and say, hey, I'm a rogue saboteur or whatever, and I'm looking for a pre-made. Please invite me. And as these guys get to know you a little more and see you consistently joining their teams and stuff like that, they'll be more likely to invite you every single time. They'll even fit you in sometimes. Say that they've got all the Chloromages they need on their team, then you send them a message and say, hey, I've got Chloro spec, I know you guys want this spec, you know, can I get into the pre-made? And normally they would turn you away because they're full on Chloromages right at that moment. But since you join all the time and you know you consistently help out that team, they might put you in anyway. They might fit you in. They might ask one of the other Chloromages to go a different spec just so that they can get you in. You know, they really like the loyalty, and you know, you just keep at it. And don't be a negative person whenever you get into these conquests either. Don't criticize the raid leader. Don't even talk in Conquest chat. Don't do it. Because they want Conquest chat to be completely clear of any chat and only the leader's directions to be on there. So the best thing to do is not to talk. Get into the raid. Follow the orders. Do not criticize. The leaders know what they're doing. It might not be apparent to you what they're doing. It might look like they're losing a match to you, but you don't know. You'll learn as you go along, but they've got strategies that they do, and sometimes it doesn't always work out. It might look like you're on the losing team even though you're in a pre-made, and you think this guy is leading us to our doom. Well, it might work out that way too, but he has a strategy in mind that he's trying to accomplish, and you know, it usually works. That's why he's doing it. So listen to the raid leader, and you know, don't argue back. Don't even make any comments after the conquest is over saying, man, you should have done this or something like that. That's a great way never to get invited back to that guy's pre-mades. And you'll learn over time too that some of these guys are really good at leading the pre-mades, and some of them aren't as good, but you might want to join them more often anyway because they're cool. They're, you know, they might not win all the time, but they're just fun to run with, and you know, just your type of person. You know, it's all about preference. But just make sure that you're following orders and you don't argue. Do not argue. Okay, so you pretty much got everything you need to win right now. You've got your spec, which is a Conquest spec, and you picked one of them that is desirable for a pre-made to want you into it. So you get into the channel and you ask for an invite around 30 minutes before the conquest starts or so. You get an invite. You're on the team. Then you wait around. Make sure you're not PvP flagged, because if you just done your PvP dailies, I can't invite you to the conquest. So you get into the group. The conquest starts. You follow orders. You're running around doing everything you can that the leader is telling you to do, and you're sticking with the group. You're not straying off on your own. You're playing as a team. Well, most likely that leader is going to lead you to victory, because a lot of the other teams, take for instance if you get put on Oathsworn and your pre-made leader is directing you guys everywhere to go. Well, the other teams, such as, you know, take for instance, let's say Nightfall doesn't have a leader in theirs. Their people are going to be running all over the place, not knowing what they're doing. Every time you see any of their group, you're going to be killing them. You're going to get tons of kills, tons of prestige, tons of favor, and you'll probably win in the end. Okay, now I'll dabble a little bit into what leaders think whenever they're leading these things. I can't really go too much into it because there's way too much strategy, but I'll talk about one of the ways that they win that frustrates the people that are following whenever they don't understand what's going on. Now, usually a good Conquest leader will make sure that your team is not winning with the most extractors before the timer starts. Because now imagine you are Nightfall and you've got 65% of the extractors whenever the timer hits. You know, you're the team that set off the timer. Well, the other two teams that are way behind you, who do you think they're going to attack? Which extractors do you think that they're going to attack? They're going to attack Nightfall because you're the one with all the extractors. And it's real easy for both of those teams just to go from one extractor to the next, and they will all be Nightfall pretty much because you own so many of the extractors in Conquest. So that means both the other teams are going to be swarming your extractors, and even if you do your best to, you know, take over theirs as they're taking them, theirs are going to be so far spread out that it's going to be hard for you. Take, for instance, you might take the extractor up at Burl or something like that, and then the next one that it isn't yours is going to be, you know, way over at HC or something like that. You know, just some distance to where it's not going to be real easy for your team to take extractor after extractor. And the other two teams are both against you now. So what happens is you are going to go from 65% winning down to 10% or whatever it is, 11% or whatever it goes down to, losing. And the other teams are going to have all the extractors because it was really easy to take yours because yours was everywhere. So leaders tend to avoid being in the lead, and usually they try to keep you in the last place. So while this whole conquest is going on, they're going around killing all these players and trying to set off the timer with kills, because if they set off the timer with extractors, that means that they are going to be in first place with extractors and be the #1 on the hit list for the other two teams. They do not want that. So most good Conquest leaders will try to set off the timer with kills, you know, because they've already got a pre-made. They've got a well-formed group with the right specs and going to go in and kill everybody else. And they'll let you guys take the extractors, but prevent you from hitting the you know, timer with the extractors. So do not get all frustrated whenever you see your team is in 16% of the extractors and everybody else is way above you, because once the timer starts, it's going to be so easy for you guys to go from extractor to extractor, getting one right after another, and nobody's going to be attacking yours really because you don't have many to start out with. And usually they can pull off the win with that strategy. And most players that don't know what's going on, they get frustrated with that method of winning and they like to complain. Do not do it, guys. Do not complain in Conquest chat because you don't understand what's going on, and also that you know, makes you look bad that you're a complainer whenever, you know, you're just looking bad because you don't understand. So I hope this helps you guys out. You know, I'll have all the specs down there in the description below, the channels to join, and hopefully this helps you out in these Conquest matches, because I know a lot of people get frustrated with losing over and over and they're not understanding what's going wrong or how they can become part of the winning team. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and like usual, my name is Grim, and I will see you tomorrow.